Hey, what's up, guys? It's Adam Angeli from Rescue Michigan, and tonight we have a full panel with us. We're going to have a great discussion talking about just all the stuff that's been going on in grassroots politics in Michigan. Try to make some sense out of some of the drama that's been happening. So tonight I've got with me our own Shane Trejo, also happens to be chair of the 11th Congressional District CDRC. We've got Tami Carlone, who is the Grassroots vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party. And we've got, oh no, I'm sorry. You are the, Tami?
Coalitions.
Was I wrong? Coalitions vice chair, excuse me. Coalitions vice chair. I knew you were vice chair. We got John Smith, who is the secretary, caught myself there, of the Hillsdale Republican Party. We are live, I believe, for the first time on 3 networks at once, YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. I am still, let me just see if Rumble's actually going right now. We've never done this before. We've never been on 3 networks. So before we get started, I just want to make sure this is all actually happening. Rumble is still not yet. Looks like there's still, oh, there we go. We are live. Got some feedback there in my headset because my Rumble was not muted. We are live on Rumble. So that's great. Now, the next thing I want to just check and make sure of is that we're actually live on Facebook. So I'm going to go over and see if this actually worked. If it is, this is the first time we've ever gone live on Facebook.
It is working. It is working on Facebook. I'm getting out the link right now.
There we are. All right, great. And I have to assume YouTube is actually working because usually YouTube works, I think. Unless, I don't know. I was watching the Kyle Rittenhouse trial today with about 70,000 other people on this YouTube streamer's channel, Ricada Law. And literally, as they're in their closing arguments, the entire stream goes down and says, this has been deleted for content policy violations. And the chat, and you can imagine 70,000 people in the chat just absolutely erupt. What the bleep is going on? And they claim there's something going around where they're trying to call it some kind of copyright infringement. They're watching this channel, or they're watching this trial, a public trial on PBS, offering live commentary with like 10 lawyers watching. And YouTube's like, this is some kind of copyright violation. And then like 5 minutes later, the stream comes back. 5 minutes later, it goes down again. Same problem. This happens 3 times. Meanwhile, they lose like 30,000 of their viewers. And then later on, YouTube says, oh, sorry, our mistake. We don't know what happened. Somehow we drove all of your traffic away to other channels. But that's just how that goes. But anyway, we are live. We just started streaming. This was not an announced stream. We didn't do an email blast about it or anything like that. So I want to give people a couple of minutes to get into the stream before we really get started on the topic here. But I guess in the meantime, I don't know if you guys are watching the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, if you have any thoughts on what's been going on. Personally,
it's BS, right? It's all political now.
Well, the funny thing is, it was the prosecutor that made it political. And they opened that door themselves. They're interviewing this witness. It was a guy, what's the guy's name? Shane will know. Drew Hernandez, who the prosecution tried to attack as, you're a conservative media source, and how biased are you about this stuff? And they dragged it all in. And in closing arguments today, the defense, I got to say, I've been probably the worst critic of Kyle's defense attorneys among anybody I know personally. Just watching the trial, they've made so many blunders with jury selection, with not objecting to inadmissible testimony, all these other things. Kyle's defense was great today. They were great. Their closing statement was, they opened with a bang. All the evidence was good. The closing was a little weak. They didn't really put a bow on it at the end, but it was really good. And then after that, the prosecution actually got like a few minutes to make, they actually got as much time as they wanted to make a rebuttal. And the rebuttal was an absolute train wreck for the prosecution. They tried to raise issues they couldn't raise. The defense objected. The jury had to get kicked out of the room for like 15 minutes while they were arguing about it. They come back in. The jury clearly knows something's going on. And the defense, or the prosecuting attorney at the last minute before the trial ended for deliberations, was bickering, mean, nasty, and just hurling hatred at Kyle. It just was the worst look for them to end on, and I couldn't be happier because I have been so nervous about everything throughout this whole trial. And
it seemed like the judge was a stand-up judge. About time, and I guess I say that a little loosely, but I mean, in today's reality with political things, I mean, judges are not non-biased a lot of times, and we got, I think it was good. It turned out well today.
He got a good judge, although I feel like we were lowering our expectations that a fair judge is above what we should be expecting.
That's where we're at today, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, so the way the narrative started was the judge ruled against the prosecutor over and over and over and over again. And all the time it was frivolous pretrial motions that the prosecutor was introducing just to poison the jury pool, just to get the local media to keep rehashing these things. Because if you lie about them in these filings, it's protected from slander because they're court filings, and then the media can lie about it because they're just repeating what was in the court filings. And that's all that ever was. So the judge ruled against them over and over and over again. They're like, oh, this is a really base judge. He's a great judge. Then there was a few things that went really bad these past few days. There was, the worst of it was the judge allowed in these instructions to the jury to say, well, if there's evidence of provocation, then you got to consider that. And there was never any valid evidence of provocation. Hey, Penny Swan in the chat says, hi guys. Hey, Penny, how you doing? We're just kind of hanging out for a little bit, waiting for people to show up. But I don't know. It's been a few minutes. 10:06. We might as well just get into the topic. And you guys know more about this than I do. We're trying to clear the air on just a lot of drama that's been going on in the grassroots. A lot of name calling, and I've waded into that a few times over the past year. I try not to, but sometimes I can't help it. But it's gotten to a fever pitch here where we're seeing people just hurling the worst accusations back and forth. And I really want to kind of get your guys' take on. So I don't know, maybe.
Well, let me give set the prologue a little bit on what had happened. Several months ago, there was the initial forensic audit push from the Grassroots. There was a big event. I was able to cover that for bigleaguepolitics.com. A lot of hope, a lot of optimism that happened there with sort of a planning commission of a handful of grassroots patriots. I know that there was one of the people who ended up having their names put on the act was Jovan Pulitzer of Arizona, the guy who, before he was a vote fraud hero and champion, self-proclaimed champion, he used to have a magical sword that he paraded around on reality TV. So, maybe not the best guy to listen to in terms of, fighting election fraud, but, it's neither here nor there. So from in the past several months, there's been a lot of rifts that's gone on within that core group. And now, there are people, we just, me and Adam just watched a little bit of the John Smith interaction with Melissa Carone and Logic over with our friends at Us Against Media. So there's a big rift there, and there seems to be impetus to bring as many different grassroots people into it as possible to pick sides and draw lines in the sand so that we're all arguing amongst ourselves and shooting ourselves in the foot over and over again. So I'll first send it off to John. He can kind of give his input, then Tami, because they've been more intimately involved in this than me. But I think I summed it up pretty good there, didn't I?
Yeah, I mean, so originally John Roca and I were talking about this forensic audit bill back in late June, maybe early July. Now, we got together in, I think, early August. So we were talking about it, I think, probably late June, because I think our texts go back to like early July, but I think we talked about it before our texts. So that's when we started developing this idea. Do we want to try to go for a forensic audit? Obviously, nobody else in the state's doing it. Like here, you got common folk that are trying to do something with a forensic audit. We don't have the intellects of Hillsdale College doing a forensic audit. We don't have the millionaires and billionaires in the state, doing this forensic audit. No, it's ragtag dudes that are doing it, right? And so are at least discussing it. And then going into August, John and I, Rocha, we went down to Florida for a Yale convention, Young American for Liberties. And that's where we really started talking about this. And then John started communicating with other people, and I started communicating with other people. And I think that's when Melissa Carone got put into the mix. And the reason why Melissa was brought into the mix is because she knew other people that had money to help fund this forensic audit. And so that was the original reason why someone like Jovan was brought into the picture. Obviously, I think that was in late August, if I'm not mistaken, when we had that event in Jackson. Does that sound about right, Shane?
Yep.
And,
But by sorry to interrupt, but by
yeah.
by chance, did Jovan actually come through with any of that money?
Oh, up to date? No, there's nothing. But to be fair, let me be fair. We're still in the process of setting up the 501c4. That doesn't happen overnight. That's not something that you just up and go. See, that's a lot of people don't know is you have to set a board in place in order to have, we're talking millions and millions of dollars, guys. We're not talking about, hey, just wire me a couple $100. We're talking about millions of dollars.
Right.
You got to be good stewards of that money. And so we create a board for that. Well, so we were talking about doing the forensic audit. Well, Representative Steve Carra was already in process for a House bill for this. And but I'm friends with Steve Carra, and I'm friends with some of the people on his team, and he asked me to participate in his final bill revision. So I'm on both sides of the teams, if you will. And we have Darren Wisely as our an attorney that helped write this bill or wrote majority of the bill. And John Rattan is my parliamentarian. Darren Wisely is the chair of our party. Their partake, they helped write some of this bill. And so we're on the team we have a Friends Citizens Initiative team, and then we have Steve Carra's team for a House bill. Well, whatever reason, Steve Carra and Patrick Kolbeck had a hard time dealing with Jovan. This is prior to we got together. So this was probably in June or something like that. They were trying to get together to help do a bill. And there was some infighting between Patrick Kolbeck and Jovan. And so Jovan, if you know Jovan, he is the guy is very aggressive when you first deal with him. So for an example, the first time that I said something when he was in a group text, I said, "Hey, what's the game plan for tomorrow?" He came back with four very harsh texts and making accusations about using this for our campaign. I'm like, dude, I'm not even running for a campaign. So he was very aggressive.
Seems like a mentally unstable bully to me.
Yeah, it's really strange. Every time I've had these interactions, it just happened 3 or 4 days ago where, because this has stemmed all the way till today, where there was this infighting. I was trolling him in a group text and he called me. And he was just accusing and making accusations right from the rip. And for the first 3 minutes of our conversations, I just lit it up on him saying, I don't care who you think you are or whatever. But and then after 3 minutes of making accusations and calling each other's names, it was like a normal conversation for an hour straight. And hung up the phone, God bless and have a great day. So dealing with Jovan is very difficult at the beginning. It seems like of any conversation. And then it just tapers off and it becomes easy to work with. And when I look at the comments that are online or people that interact with them with their comments or dealing with Doug Logan directly from Cyber Ninjas, it all fits. That all fits. He's very hard to deal with at first. He gets easier to work with. So I think almost like he's got some sort of spectrum or he's got some sort of Asperger's or something of that nature, or I don't know, when you're just a complete narcissist. I don't know what that is, but I got a feeling that's more like what it is. But going into late August, not only did we do that in Jackson, Shane, I also went to a Steve Carra final bill revision. And this is where Melissa Carone is accusing me of sharing the Citizen of Bill language initiative. She's accusing me of sharing that language. Well, shortly after that meeting with Carra, which I didn't do at that time, shortly after that meeting, we were already setting up meetings to get both teams together because we knew going into this that if we didn't have a united front, we had no support from the House, we had no support from the Senate, we had no support from leadership across the state, it's going to be us. And so I started developing the meeting to hook up. And sure enough, we got the agreement. When we got that agreement, we started sharing the bill language then. And so when we got together on the 20th of September, we're talking a matter of days here. You know what I mean? And so we got together and we wrote a unified bill, if you will, for the most part. There were some things that we had to be worked on, but we came together. It was actually one of the most proudest days of my life because, getting 17 personalities, Jovan the Wizard in the room, and getting everybody together, it's very difficult to do. And we were able to do that be honest with you, with very little riff. Wouldn't you say, Tami?
Actually,
Yes, for sure.
I mean,
and
before
then
we go to
after-
Tami, just to give you guys some context, we were working with people around the Secure My Vote petition language, and it's a really tough needle to thread when you've got a lot of stakeholders, you've got lawmakers, you've got fundraisers, all these different things. And what our approach was we said, this is a public draft of what we would do. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And there was lots of conversations. They all happened. At the end of the day, a lot of things we wanted, we didn't get, but there is a fair reason for that, which is there's only so many number of different things you can put into a citizen initiated proposal.
Right. It has to be shrunk down. We had a lot of pages that had to be cut down.
Well, I'm not trashing what they put together for all the things that we wish it had that it didn't. We're like, well, taking it at face value. It's got voter ID in it. It's got banning the Zuckerbugs in it. It's got banning unsolicited absentee ballot applications. Is that everything? No, but we were involved in the process, and that's what else can you do?
On the 20th, we all came together, and I remember leaving that place like, man, I'm so proud of myself of being a part of this. And on that day, we created a board for this. And everybody was in agreement. And I've been kind of playing the audio clips of that the last few days on Facebook, showing, because Melissa's going out there saying she wrote the bill, Jovan wrote the bill, it's being stolen. This language has been stolen. John Roca's taking it over. The accusations are getting out of control, to be honest with you, and it's getting nastier and nastier as this goes on. And
another thing that you said, John,
when you were on Us Against Media, and Melissa was saying LSB rewrote this bill, and there are a bunch of liberals at LSB, and they're editing things and taking stuff out and yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking, I don't think she knows what LSB is or what they do or what their obligations are. These are lawyers who have a very serious obligation to their client, which is the House, which is the members of the House. They're nonpartisan. They work for both parties, and their job is to give lawmakers what they ask for. And sometimes that means they will change bills because they know it has to be written in a certain way. They know it has to amend this act. They know it has to say this. They know it has to have this language. And I have never, in all my years in the legislature, heard of them ever acting in bad faith. They don't have to agree with what you're doing, but and all of them, I can say, have always been professionals. And just to hurl an accusation like that out there, it's like, oh yeah, LSB is controlled by liberals. When the world thinks that and says so without having any evidence to support that.
Go ahead, Shane. You were going to say something.
About Jovan is that, I know that you said you talked to, I think, Doug from Cyber Ninjas. I talked to some people who, are in Arizona, around Arizona, and what they basically said was Jovan has nothing to do with the audit here. He wanted to be a part of it, but he was shut out probably because of his own, lack of expertise or lack of knowledge or personality defects. And then he just goes around acting like he's the mastermind of the audit to his followers, which unfortunately is, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people listen to this guy. It's a huge problem. Makes a bunch of shit up and throws out a bunch of fantastical claims about like what the Arizona audit will do. None of it ever comes to fruition, and he's never held accountable. And that's what enrages me is that no one holds people accountable.
I wonder if he got paid for what he's supposed to provide. And I'm curious. I didn't ask Doug that yet. But yeah, so we got together. We all agreed to vote on a board except Matt DePerno. He was the only one out. There were 17 of us in that room. And out of the 17, he's the only one that said no, he didn't want the board. But since he was overrid by the amount of people, we went on to do the board. And that was a little hot and heavy at first because of issues with like Linda Lee Tarver. She has a past dealing with some lawsuits and stuff. So Cara wanted to make her the chair and then wanted to make her vice chair. The goal here, and it was expressed, that we took 2 people from Cara's team and 2 people from the Citizen Initiative team. That way it was sort of even out, and then we take one neutral person, someone like from Hillsdale, if you will. So that's what we're trying to do and correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, if I out of place on any of this, but that became a little got a little heated between Melissa, Cindy Holland, and Angela. They didn't want Linda, and they wanted John as the chair, Rocha. So and I have the audio clip of this that I put on Facebook. I wanted to play it earlier because I was just on an interview with Us Against Media, and every time when I went to go put the evidence out, they didn't want Melissa didn't want to hear it, or Logic didn't want to hear it. So, but it's out here on Facebook world anyways. But since then, we the boards had meetings. They're moving forward. The 501c4. They're doing the graphics, the logo design. We're doing pledges. We're doing things, if you will, moving this forward. And then out of the sun, just recently, this last week, Melissa blows it up with that John stealing Jovan's language. They're stealing the bill, in making a lot of casting a lot of aspersions, creating a lot of lies. On her first video, I pulled 28 lies, and most of them are drama. Most of them are like pettiness, drama lies.
And if I can interject here, and then I want to go to Tammy because we want to give her a moment here. But just quickly to take a 30,000 foot view on this, because look, I'm not the finder of fact here, and obviously, if we were really to have this, we would have to have the other side out. And unfortunately, just saw what that's like on the channel you were just on. But from 30,000 foot view, I want to make this observation. It's weird to me that so many people involved in this project are themselves candidates for office, because candidates for office are supposed to not be doing other things other than running for office. Like you're supposed to be out knocking on doors, winning the hearts and minds of voters. And you've got, Melissa Carlone, you've got Angela Ragas, you've got John Rocha, you've got Matt DePerno, and they're all running for
Cara. Steve Cara.
Yeah, Cara too. Although I would point out, Cara is ostensibly going to be your bill sponsor, so at least there's that. But then again, even there, like when I'm working with lawmakers, we don't deal them into our executive meetings where we're talking about legislative strategy. We're like, hey, can you do this?
Dare Rendon. Dare Rendon was there. So like you had a couple law people or people already in office. There were 6 people that were either in office or running.
What's so weird to that, and I know this from all too painful experience, you're not supposed to be the insider and the outsider at the same time. You're just not. It's going to have problems with your colleagues. It's going to have you're bringing problems. Like if you're running for office, your duty is to your donors who are putting their hard-earned money into your campaign. And if you're getting involved in an outside group, which your constituents, your prospective constituents might or might not agree with, right or wrong, you don't want to be bringing in that drama. Your job is to run for office and run for office and run for office, and that's it. Because otherwise, why are they giving their time, talent, and treasure to you, an underdog, fighting to win your seat, if you're spending half your time going off doing other things? I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, I support this. Yeah, I support that. But it's so weird that all these different people on whatever side they are putting so much of their energy into a political project that is totally separate and aside from their own campaign.
But I think it comes down.
Adam, you guys, I got to talk sometimes or I'm going to go to bed, okay? So we're in a different situation here. Huh?
Go.
We're in a different situation here. Why are candidates doing this? Why am I not running, at least so far? Because there's fraud in our elections. It's a priority. That's the difference.
That's exactly what I backed Tammy up with that. I mean, that's how bad it is. It's ragtag people and like I call myself ragtag. Tammy's not ragtag, of course, but I'm ragtag, right? So like it takes ragtag people along with some regular Joe people and people running for office to make this happen. And what's funny is when these bills come out, if they're not written properly, it's like, oh, shame on you guys. No, it's shame on everybody else that has the opportunity to be involved as well. Yeah, but there's a process.
There's a process. I mean, Steve Carr's got a bill introduced. You got a problem with it? There's a committee. It's going to pass the House. There's going to be another opportunity for amendments. Goes to the Senate. There's more opportunities for amendments. If the bill never gets a hearing anywhere in the House, well, you can revise it when you take your language to the Board of State Canvassers. I mean, there's a time this stuff is going to happen.
But nobody's pushing. Nobody's pushing the citizen initiative but us. That's it.
Yeah. Well, okay, but so who ultimately gets to decide the final language of the proposal?
The board does. The board that's put in place. And that board is Tami Carlone's on that board.
So you and Tami are on that board, and
I'm
these
not
other
on the
people.
board.
Oh, you're not on the board. Okay,
I'm not
but you
on
know
board.
So
the
now,
people
so
are.
now that
I want to get back. Actually, I want to get back to Tami because we didn't give her hardly any time at all yet, and I'm sure she's got more to say than what she has. So, Tami, if you want to
talk about, can we talk about like what the board's looking like right now after the kind of the reconfiguration of all the drama that's happened?
Well, John Rocha is the president of the board, and I'm the vice president of the board. We have a treasurer in John Rutan, and secretary is Nick Goyette. Angela Regas is a trustee, and we've been working ever since we were appointed by the very people that we're talking about. Voted us in as the board. A couple of changes on board members because things didn't work out, which I don't even want to get into the details of this type of thing.
You shouldn't.
And
This is honestly inside baseball. But I mean, talk about the public statements. I mean, what's happening, what we're seeing happening, which is all anyone can see really, is you've got like, Logic's channel and Us Against Media and Melissa Corona and all these guys are going out and just trashing everybody else around them. I mean, what's the end game here?
This is my point. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to get down into the dirt and talk about all the details. I'm an issue-focused person for a reason. I don't get into the dirt with people because it doesn't serve my goals. My goals are to save my country, which, my friends, we've lost it. So watching that interview, John, it was painful. It was a shit show. When you run an interview like that, Adam, Shane, you know this. You have to do it properly so that the right conclusion is had. The right conclusion was not had by that interview at all. They kept shutting John down. Certain people kept saying the same thing over and over and over. It was a waste of time. So I just want to back up a little bit and say I've been involved in political activism for 21 years. I have gained a reputation over that time as working with whoever wants to work on the issues at hand. Whatever label that you have on them, I'm not interested in labels. I have never, ever been involved in the name calling and, excuse my language, the shit show that is happening right now with this forensic audit. And it seems like at every level in this country, I don't even know how to say it. It seems like Satan is involved in what's happening. You don't have the legislature doing what they need to do in Michigan, no matter how many affidavits we send, no matter how many calls go in. We're trying to get a forensic audit. It's what needs to happen. I'm staying focused on the issues. I'm not going to say he said, she said. To sit there and watch people drag my name through the mud when I have done absolutely nothing wrong, it's just unbelievable. It's unacceptable. And anybody that looks at this and has my name involved and sees the things that they're saying must know that those people are off their meds.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with the new people who have not been involved for very long, who have no, knowledge of the process, and who have, no, people, like you said, you've been around for 21 years. Adam's been around for over a decade. I've been doing this for close to a decade now. So we have experience. We do this every day. You learn things, you make mistakes, and you learn from those mistakes as you're going through the process. A lot of the people who've shown up and hit the ground running, I've met so many of them in my district who've turned out to be such great leaders who have, taken the bull by the horns and have the right idea, have a positive approach. I think those, definitely outnumber the opposite side. But there's a lot of people who come in, a lot of distrust of politicians, institutional failure across the board. So they don't know who to trust. And then they end up, becoming, or saying that they're leaders themselves, despite not having any knowledge, any talent, any ability. And, a lot of people out there, they're desperately looking to make false idols out of people, because we are in such a bad shape as a country. People want to think, there's going to be a silver bullet. We're going to get Trump back into office or something like that.
Hey, guys, real quick. Rachel in the chat from Us Against Media says, I just want the timestamp timelines from both sides. We're not attacking anyone. Us Against Media.
Right. No, they did.
No. Yeah, just to be clear. No, you guys weren't trashing. We're talking about frankly, Melissa and Logic.
No,
and you guys want to come on the program, and frankly, I don't mind having them on either. Maybe not right this minute, but
Adam,
by all means,
I was talking about them, Adam. I was talking about them. That was a very disappointing interview. John had things to say. He had proof, and he wasn't allowed to say it. Whereas at the same time, Logic said the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over. It's an interviewer's job.
It's something I don't know how often they do that. So I don't have any ill feelings towards John or Rachel. I think I consider them friends. So I just think it's just a lack of, it's something that we're learning as we're moving forward. I mean, like, they don't, I don't know how often they get people on to do shows like that. And obviously this is hot and heavy for whatever reason. I don't even know why it's so hot and heavy. I think a lot of it might be just comes from some sort of level of jealousy, if you will. It's, like Jovan itself is a beast of its own. So that's like a whole can of its own. And then you throw a lot of emotions on it. It just becomes very difficult with working with people. At the end of the day, we just want a forensic audit done. That's it, and that's all we're going to move towards. And with or without Jovan, or with or without Melissa Carlone, with or without John Roca, if that was the case, it don't make a difference. I got a feeling we're going to be stifled at every front going forward here anyways. Like they're going to try to stifle everything we can moving forward. So
that whole interview is arguing about language. Who freaking cares whose language? I put a ton of language in there. No, you don't ever hear me going around talking about that or whatever. Who cares who made the language?
Tammy, let's get
everything in there and get the damn audit done. What the whole conversation is about language. What?
I said you got the fourth amount. You got 192 edits to it. That's huge. You got a ton of it in there.
And how often have you heard me say I wrote it? How often have you heard me say I wrote it? It doesn't matter where the language is from. Let's get the audit.
I mean, there's certainly a valid point to the old saying, the devil's in the details with legislation. But at the same time, the bar that you guys have to get over in terms of getting language, getting funding, getting it approved by the Board of Canvassers, getting signatures, these are all so many considerations and so many challenges that there gets to a point where, like I said, there's things I wish the Secure My Vote petition had that it doesn't, where I just had to let it go. And it's like, how much for because my impression when the Rifters first started, it was Jovan Pulitzer trashing Carr's bill, and publicly when he didn't need to, when he could have been like, hey, let's work this out in committee. Hey, let's get a substitute, and not, driven a huge spike within the grassroots over this language, which is a relatively small detail. And it's sad to see that it's kind of gone this way.
Well, we were talking before the show started, and I spent all day yesterday because I didn't vet Jovan. I mean, I figured he is a guy that wants to help. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I can't help but think that Jovan's either some sort of plant or some sort of CIA operative. I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but ultimately he hasn't provided anything for Arizona. According to Doug Logan, he's the guy that did the forensic audit there. I mean, why would he be texting and lying to me about that? And then, when you go to research Jovan, it's not just about magical swords and crystals. I mean, like when you start looking at trying to pin that guy down, try to find out where he lives, try to find out where his patents are, what their patents are for, try to find out these other corporations that he says he's attached to on LinkedIn. It's really difficult to track this guy down. I mean, pin him down. So he's not a very transparent dude, if you will. I can go to Matt DePerno's house. I can go to Melissa's house. I can go to your house, Shane. I can go to your house, Tammy, but I can't go to Jovan's. And so
I don't know that I'd attack him for having a private life. The issue, though, that's
not what I'm saying.
Well, okay, but the point I would make is a lot of people I find, especially people who are new to politics, and Jovan Pulitzer is no background in legislative work or campaigns and elections, is a lot of people don't realize every state's process is completely different, and what you can do and what you can't do, all little details about how state government works. Arizona to Michigan are two completely different things. So immediately I'm thinking this guy from Arizona is not going to know the details of Michigan election law, the details of how appropriations work to do an audit, and all this other stuff that someone needs to know. and he poses as this absolute expert. I'm like, look, man, it's, you got patents. That's great. You've been on TV. That's great. Doesn't make you an expert in Michigan election law. Doesn't mean you know what the right thing is.
He was brought on for the money in the first place. He wasn't brought on for the language, if you will. And I can't help but think that this is what I think this stems in. I mean, like I said, I don't want to speculate anymore, but he wasn't really brought on for language. He was brought on for money and to help fund this. And supposedly he had access. I have audio clip here that says otherwise now, so of Melissa saying, well, he only has money for his part of the investigation, if you will. But he hasn't done anything in the Arizona one. And now he's talking about Georgia or New Jersey and these other states. And I mean, I just can't help but think this guy's a con man.
I mean,
100%. I don't know if he's a federal con man, but definitely a con man. Tami?
We had a bunch of people working on bills and citizens initiatives. We came together, long story short, into a room in Lansing with 17 people there. John Smith was the person that did that, or a big part of, making that happen. We were all described as being in the foxhole together. We're coming together to have the same language for the bill and for the citizens initiative so we could move forward on the same path together. John, you and I left euphoric. We thought, this is great. I can't believe this is happening in politics. Now, out of those 17 people who all said we want a forensic audit, which is what everybody is saying that we want, a forensic audit, which of them are moving forward with the forensic audit, the work of getting one done, and which of them are complaining, dragging people through the mud, arguing about the source of language, not producing what they said they were going to, talking about people like me who have done nothing but give and give and give for 21 years with no pay. I mean, you can probably sense I'm angry, and I'm not usually angry. This is unbelievable what I see happening. So out of those 17 people, which ones are throwing a monkey wrench in the works, and which ones are moving us forward? Just answer me that. And then you'll have your answer. It's as simple as that.
I think that, kind of one of the, maybe the silver lining in this is that all this is kind of happening now a year before the 2022 elections, so that we can kind of see where everyone stands, who the solid, sturdy leaders are, who can, keep their head under fire and in, desperate situations like we're in now, and who's going to kind of combust and fall apart and cause division and cares more about their egos than they do the cause. So I think that if there's a silver lining of this disaster, it's that we're seeing what everyone's made of right now. And I think that will come in, very handy over the next year.
Don't forget, we are up against a time clock. There's a period of time when all the election materials are chucked. We're up against that time clock. So should we be arguing over whose language is whose and what, this type of thing? Or should we just be pressing forward? We should all be pressing forward.
Just so people know, too, Shane and I go back and forth on the idea of the audit in the first place. And, and I was telling Shane, can we have both? Can we move forward and have an audit? Because regardless, you're going to have a large section of people that can't get off of it, period. And so if we just keep saying the word forward and not address the audit, we're going to keep that division going, right? So
I'm saying move forward to get the audit done. I'm not saying move forward without the audit.
That's what I was telling Shane on the phone. Like because Shane didn't want, he was indifferent with it. And I was like, listen, can we just do both? And Shane eventually said, you know what? Yeah, let's just figure it out. Let's do it.
And I think what I'm kind of suggesting is that no matter what ballot you're taking door to door, and everyone should be on something because there's so many of them, whether it's the forensic audit thing that's in the works that you guys are doing, whether it's Secure My Vote, whether it's Unlock, whether it's the one that's coming out about educational savings accounts, whatever you're doing door to door, you should be doing something. Just make sure you take that data, people you find, and use it to build your local organizations, use it to build activists, use it to recruit precinct delegates, because ultimately I think it's going to be the local organizations and being connected at the community by community level. If anything's going to save us out of this, is going to be that. So that's what I'm encouraging is whatever you want to do door to door, Just make sure you meet people through that process. You build your community, you build your activists, you build your delegate base, and that is what I think is going to lead the sustaining changes, rather than it's just going to be one. The idea that it's going to be on anything that it's going to be one law is going to be passed or one initiative is going to be passed, and we're going to undo generations of damage. That's not how it works. We have to always keep that kind of local focus and building our local power in mind whenever we're doing anything, especially ballot initiatives.
So, yeah, I agree. I think that's actually kind of like where the rift really started happening. It was we had that Donald Trump Lansing event, and when after that, it seems like when we started getting issues from Melissa's side, and I think a lot of it might have stemmed because and this has already been thrown on the table, is John Roca on the auditmi.org page is just a landing page where emails are being collected. He used those emails and he sent out a campaign to those emails, a campaign email, and saying, hey, we're doing this audit. This is the team. Help support my campaign. And I think Angela might have did it, and I think Melissa might have did it, but I can't prove that. And because I started getting emails shortly after he shared that list to Melissa. And I didn't think there was a problem, in my personal opinion, because first off, we're not even a 501c4 yet established. So to say that we break in campaign finance laws, that's actually untrue. But I thought that these people were on this bill particularly. Why not support those people? I thought at minimum, if we don't make the deadline or something happens, at minimum, at least we know we got candidates that are wanting something that's this important. And these are great candidates, if you will. And why not support those candidates that want a forensic audit? Why not push those forward? So I don't know.
I agree. And one question that wasn't exactly answered on the previous Us Against Media podcast was, what I understand that, someone could potentially, play devil's advocate, be offended that, that data was used for soliciting campaign purposes. But was there any agreement beforehand, any explicit agreement that wouldn't be done by the candidates?
Supposedly John Roca and Jovan, and maybe Melissa was in that conversation. I don't know because I wasn't there. But supposedly there is some sort of conversation there that they had some sort of agreement where he wouldn't solicit it on his language, or he wouldn't campaign on his. That's what it was. He wouldn't campaign on his language. But when I read the email, I was attempting to read the email, as you guys seen. I was kept getting cut off. I didn't hear no language there. Did you guys?
It sounded like it was just generically. We're doing the forensic audit. If you'd like to give to my campaign here, here's how you do it. So, really, we're really splitting hairs here. And that's supposed to be the big smoking gun of corruption. Seems pretty far-fetched, and like they're making a mountain out of a molehill for reasons other than helping the cause forward. That's for sure.
Well, do they want to help get the audit done, or do they want to blow up the grassroots?
Hey, real quick, I want to get back to that topic, Tami, about blowing up the grassroots. But first, I want to read over some chats because we want to catch up. Mayor Adam Stockford says, John Smith, the Sam Adams of 2021. There you go. Anna Timmer says, voter confidence is good consideration, John. I think that was in reference to talking before about, the importance of doing an audit. PS Political View 3.0 says John Smith and I are at PS Political and we'll be doing a show tomorrow at 4 to go through the things John wasn't able to talk about on Us Against Media this evening. I'm not sure what PS Political is, but John, if you want to give that a plug, we can do that.
Yeah, she's that's Penny Swan over here in Hillsdale. She's a local friend, and she's an advocate here.
All right. Sherry Crozier says, how many of these people speaking have attempted to blackmail others? Anyone threatened to make up rumors about candidates, threaten anyone's family? For me, I will say 0 to all of those questions. I have never blackmailed anybody.
The answer is no from my end, personally. And I'm not running for office.
All right. There you go.
It's no for me. What's funny is, actually, in that text thread, Tami, I don't know if you recall, I mentioned that Melissa did try doing blackmail through a threat. Do you remember that, Tammy, in that text thread? I guess I got to go back and pull that up. And I said, why would you now you have resorted to the level of blackmailing? Like that's where we're at, really, honestly. I mean, and it's over this pettiness. It's really drama. You guys seen it. There wasn't nothing that was like, I don't even know what the complaint really is about. That's where this is so bizarre. Go ahead, Tammy.
For the record, that text string is a shit show, and I said nothing except something like "stop" or "take me off." I don't want to have anything to do with this. And I asked everybody to stop talking about it, to stop posting on it. It's going to be used against people. It's going to be copied. It's going to be shared. And it shouldn't happen in the grassroots. It shouldn't happen with people that claim to be constitutional Christian conservatives. But that is exactly what happened. It happened just on the show you were just on, John.
All right, real quick, guys, because I'm seeing Melissa Carone's now in the chat saying that's a lie and I don't blackmail anyone. Look, you guys. Yeah, you're going to sort this out with your own document drops and wherever you want to do them. That's all up to you guys. I want to get back to the fundamental issue we have here, which is talking about what effect all this is having on the grassroots and where this goes toward the goal. Let me just make sure there's. Logic Robert said hi, Timmy. Logic buddy, look, you're welcome to come back on our show sometime. We asked originally to come onto yours, and we're happy to talk to you about this or anything. So, by all means, man, let's have this out. But anyway, getting back to this though, because I think the real issue here is what's going on is people, politics, as long as I've been involved in politics, some degree of fighting is the norm rather than the exception. People have disagreements over strategy. People have disagreements over policy. People have disagreements over priorities. People have disagreements over personalities. A lot of times people have disagreements relating to money. And that's the way it goes. But the thing that's so bizarre to me is that the accusation of so-and-so's not grassroots and so-and-so's a rhino is, from working in politics over the years, there's a pretty fixed definition of what exactly a rhino is. A rhino is someone who, first of all, votes with the left regularly all the time, doesn't have loyalty to principles, and they always protect each other no matter what they say. Unless an actual conservative comes through, then they're happy to throw, the kitchen sink at them. Case in point, someone like Fred Upton, Peter Meyer, congressmen that voted to impeach Donald Trump over absolute garbage reasons. And you can tell a rhino because they will never, ever, 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 ever say a bad word about Peter Meyer or Fred Upton. They will defend them to the end, no matter what. And they'll say, well, that's our job as Republicans, to be loyal to each other and to do everything privately. Up until the moment a guy like Donald Trump becomes a nominee, then suddenly it's okay to withhold endorsements. Then suddenly it's okay to throw him under the bus. Then suddenly it's okay to say, I'd rather Hillary Clinton for president. It's not hard to tell the rhinos from the conservative grassroots, the ideologically motivated people. We've all been called rhinos. Some of us have been called rhinos right here on this stream. But the things that we've said about, what the GOP establishment's done, the things about, the Senate Election Committee report. A rhino would never call for Ed McBroom's resignation for publishing that report. There are certain litmus tests that work in this field. Everything else is nothing more than infighting. And who ultimately benefits from all this stuff are the rhinos. Right? If you're attacking Steve Carra, are you doing anything other than helping Fred Upton? Am I wrong in this?
Yeah. And that's what nonstop that we get from the Melissa crew. They just attack Steve Carra the whole time. It's bizarre. I don't know what their fetish is with Steve Carra anyways. I don't know why they do it, but
it began with Jovan Pulitzer attacking him for putting up the forensic audit bill that wasn't up to his, standard or whatever. His opinion should mean jack shit, but for championing the issue, for being the only lawmaker willing to go after that issue that no one else really wanted to touch, for getting the ball rolling. What happens to Steve Carra? He's thrown under the bus by a lot of people who should be supporting him. So you wonder why people don't want to get involved. You wonder why they don't want to become leaders. You wonder why they don't want to become active. Well, a lot of it has to do with they're going to be attacked by the left. But just to even get to the point of fighting the left, they're going to be stabbed in the back by their own constituents a million times over. So it becomes obvious as to, why a lot of normal people, they hear Republican, they hear Patriot movement or whatever, they want to run for the hills because of this reputation. And I wish that it was all just liberal media lies. But as we've seen over the past year, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in our movement that is, embarrassing, and that's putting it mildly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In the chat, Sherry Crozier says grassroots do not get paid. And I think this leaves an interesting point because I consider myself a grassroots guy. If I don't get paid, I don't eat. And if I don't eat, I don't get to be in the grassroots anymore. Now, I understand there's tons of people out there who volunteer their butts off. There are also some people who want to support a cause that sometimes needs money to be successful. Sometimes that involves asking for money. Because here's the thing, if we don't get donations, we can't send out mass emails because sending out mass emails costs money. Sending out direct mail costs more money. Putting ads on television costs more money. There's a blurring between an organization raising money, and that can be a campaign. And it's a tough line, I understand, because sometimes some individuals improperly take money from campaigns and all that stuff. That can
Tammy,
happen.
how much money have you made? How much money have you spent in your politics world?
Sorry, what was that?
In my what world?
How much money have you spent of your own money, Tammy, and how much money have you made?
In my 21 years of political activism, fighting for my country, I have made $0, and I have spent thousands of dollars.
I have spent $20,000 in the last 5 years or so. I make about 40 grand a year, guys. I spend 1/4 of my income on conservative movement.
Yeah, my car has 300,000 miles on it, and I didn't put it on there, traveling the country for fun. Working in politics is tough work, and I don't think automatically now that's a distinction between an elected public official taking a salary. Like we were just at an event yesterday where we discovered there was a certain local school board whose members make more than $250,000 a year. There's lunacy like that out there. But, there's a distinction that's not always easy to see between people asking for money because they need to put it into the field. They need to put it into their campaigns. They need to be able to accomplish things in politics. It does not automatically transfer to people who are personally enriching themselves doing this stuff. And I think the mark of the Patriot movement is that we all sacrifice ourselves constantly. We neglect parts of our lives sometimes to work on this stuff.
My wife wants to leave me. My kids do too. I mean, doing that podcast right before here, my daughter just wanted some popcorn. I'm here with my daughter by myself. I couldn't just get up and get her popcorn. She went to bed tonight. I didn't get to say goodnight. I'm on another podcast. This is the things that I do on an everyday basis. I know Tammy does as well. We have sacrificed a lot of our time and energy for this. And I'm not
so when someone drags me through the mud, it is completely unacceptable. It's never happened in my 21 years. It's happening now. It's completely unacceptable. There's all these things being said. Tammy this, Tammy that, Tammy the other. There's never been any proof of any of it. And I absolutely do not appreciate it at all. And have I gone and attacked those people? No, I asked them to stop.
There's a comment in the chat. The chat's getting, there's more chats to read than we would have time to read and not stay on topic. But Us Against Media writes, an email we received for writing, I assume critically, about Fred Upton. Quote, here's a tip. Stop spreading lies for personal gain. Upton and his staff are receiving death threats because of the crap people like you spread. Shame on you. Well, without knowing who wrote that, the funny thing is, and this again goes to what my point is. When people say you're writing about Upton for personal gain, yeah, because the personal gain is what? Traffic to the website that they've been working on to get the message out. I mean, to me, that's not personal gain. That's, growing an organization, building something of substance that can be used, whether it's fighting media deception, building a grassroots organization. Sometimes people do it to springboard into a campaign of some kind. I think it's so it's so improper how casually these personal accusations are hurled around without foundation.
Yes.
I thought we're all in this for personal gain. We're all in it for freedom.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
Guys, we don't have to go out on a sour point. I mean, we're moving this forward no matter what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean,
regardless, like I said, I have no ill feelings towards Melissa. I don't have no ill feelings towards Jovan. We're going to move this audit forward no matter what happens. So, like, I think we're doing just fine. When the 501c4 comes in, we're going to really be slamming this hard. We're going to be growing really at it. Nick, go ahead, join the team, and he has more experience than the rest of us. If anybody with some experience wants to get on, we're not just, please come help, whatever. We're just going to push this forward.
Yeah, he has a lot of experience with petitions, but we all have a lot of experience to bring to the table.
And I got a question for you guys. Do we anticipate that there's going to be rival forensic audit proposals, or just your guys'? Are we going to see multiple ones emerge, or are we going to just still see United Front?
You might want to bring Melissa and Jovan on your show. We don't know.
It's an open invitation. You guys are welcome to come on. Hit us up. But yeah,
we are doing our petition drive, and if somebody else enters another petition drive, I'm certain what will happen is they will all lose.
Well, so what is your guys' plan? What's the timeline for having language submitted for, say, the Board of State Canvassers?
Well, the petition's being created right now.
Okay.
So we're looking at through the winter doing signatures. You got 6 months to get those signatures, get them in. Right. Our goal was to try to shoot them in before May. And I think that was the goal, Tami. Is that correct? And
I'd have to pull up the timeline. Too much energy.
They're going to sit over there for. Yeah, they're going to sit after we turn all those signatures in. You guys are well aware of how long they can keep that for. So getting this in before the 2022 ballot was always slim. But we have to define what an audit is. We have to do certain things in that bill in order to navigate for the future of what we're going to do here.
Now, John and Rosha and I have changed some of the language since that meeting of 17 people in Lansing, and the reason being is the timeline and the delays that have come up in moving this forward, which I don't want to get into because it doesn't help the cause.
Well, I think at the end of the day, the evidence will be the language. It'll be when it's submitted and who ultimately brings what. So I think, that to me, like whenever I get involved with, issues with people politically, I tend to just do my own thing and see what just happens and let them do theirs. So
I think that's sort of like
the revised language will make the petition initiative valuable for the 2020 election, but depending on the timing, also valuable moving forward, very valuable moving forward, which is not something that was focused on previously. But now as the time is ticking, I realized that is what we needed to do, and so we did do that. And nobody else has that language. Well,
I certainly wish you guys the best. I think you're taking on a very big challenge doing this, and it's a tall order, but I know how passionate a lot of people are about getting this done. So I say Godspeed to you. And if there's some way that you and the others can work something out and get something where everyone's doing kumbaya again, that's great. But if not, I guess they say the proof of the pudding's in the eating. We'll see what proposals get brought before the board. We'll see what proposals. Oh, it looks like our Rumble stream's not working right all of a sudden. That's odd. Looks something happened to Rumble. Oh, well, we're still live streaming on YouTube and Facebook, I think. But c'est la vie. We're doing multiple streams at once. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are, the whole act of collecting 500,000 signatures is a huge undertaking. And if any one group can pull that off, it's a feat. If two groups can pull that off, it's amazing. So I guess we'll just have to see. In the meantime, I think maybe we've once again injected ourselves into this controversy here, but I think it's important that people hear about what's going on because, we're getting heat like this ourselves, for saying some of the things that we have, and that's just the way it goes. And all we can do is, try to show people by what we're doing that what we're doing is worthwhile, and that's all you can do, and that's all they can do. And in time, every individual can make their own decision. So, all right, we're coming up on.
Oh wait, John. John, where can we access the evidence that you've been talking about? I know you said your Facebook page. Is there anywhere else it's posted or it's going to be posted?
Penny Swan has been posting like the audio clips. See, I got the big audio clip on my Google Drive, but we've been taking the snippets out and posting them. But I got like the timeline of like, say, I haven't did all of Melissa's podcast. She's gone on like 3 or 4 shows, man, and just really been blasting hard. So I got to go in now and time lapse all that. I don't even know if it's worth my time and effort at this point, but I guess if anybody wants to reach out to me at John Smith on Facebook, I'm transparent as could be if needed. I don't think there's anything that is being exposed doesn't necessarily need to be exposed. But
Shane, my understanding is that you already have been given that material by Rosha.
I have seen that material. Absolutely. I'm just wondering if it's been posted publicly.
No, I don't.
For anyone else to get it.
I mean, I could be, but I don't think it is.
Well, you guys can all sort this out on your own, frankly. I don't want to, look, I don't want to get dragged into this any more than we already have. I think it's important to talk about in general what's been going on with the malaise within the grassroots, and that we've lost sight of the common enemy, because all this stuff goes to the benefit of the real rhinos, which are not, the people in the grassroots that have, maybe not exactly the right idea and might actually be making a little bit of money on the side. We're talking about the Washington establishment, the Lansing establishment, multi-billion-dollar industries, the pharmaceutical industry, the New World Order. I mean, the people that really control this country, which is not us, folks. So
we're a small amount. We are a small amount of people. If we don't unify behind at least the common cause, we will lose.
Yeah.
And Tami, where do we get more information about the audit efforts?
auditmi.org.
Oh, just so you're aware, Shane, the site has Joe. You know who Joe Moss is?
Yes.
Joe Moss is putting the site together. He just it should be up and running in the next couple of days. We got to add content to it. So that's something that Joe, Nick, and I are going to be working on, and probably Roka as well. And we're going to start putting everything out there onto that site. It's something he agreed that he would do. So, and nobody on the board knew how to build a site, so we're just doing it. We don't have no money to start this process, this stuff. The money people said that they were bringing money, didn't bring no money. So,
well, I can't believe the magic sword swinging thespian. I don't know the right word to describe him. Man about town could lie to you guys. I could lie to the public. I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, I just hope that this kind of line in the sand moment, will open a lot of people's eyes, and they'll see that we have to move forward in a way that and I'll make one more point. What really frustrates me is how there's so much preaching to the choir. There's so much focusing on this little echo chamber, whereas what we need to do is we need to be working the community, opening their eyes about the election fraud that happened, presenting the best possible facts. And I can see how audits would play into that to get the best possible information to make the case. There's a lot of information already out there that proves a lot of the fraud that happened, from affidavits to anomalies to the Secretary of State blatantly breaking the law, so on and so forth. We need to be taking the best facts to our communities, working on the county clerks, working on our city councilmen, then it will resonate from the ground up. I mean, if we had 300, 400 competent, localized forces that are working against election fraud across the state, then our contemptuous lawmakers, the McBrooms, the Tices, the Bisons, Steve Johnsons, others who've held up the election fraud investigations, they would have to take us seriously, because they know we're formidable. They know we're well organized. They know that the public takes us seriously, But as of right now, they laugh us off because they know we're unorganized, we're at each other's throats. It's easy to dismiss us because of a lot of the information that comes out from our echo chambers, and we have to do our due diligence as people who understand what's going on, have kept a level head, are in the fight, our leaders. We have to do our due diligence to make sure that we are taken seriously to the broader community. And that's the biggest thing we have to do moving forward, in my opinion.
Shane, I want to touch on your point here because I think there's actually been some comments in the chat that they dovetail around nicely. There's Sherry Crozier was saying, no, we shouldn't unify. This is hold on, where is it here? I'm done settling with this now, seeing how this party is so corrupt. The subtext is you guys and me are all a bunch of big rhinos here. But Shane, you mentioned just now Lana Tice and Steve Johnson. And I can tell you, because I worked with them for years in the legislature, Lana was 2 doors down from me in the hallway and Steve Johnson was upstairs. Johnson was in many ways for a long time considered among the most hardcore Republicans in the legislature. He and John Riley voted together the only 2 no votes on tons and tons and tons of things. Then we did have some real disagreements with him on some other ones. The worst of it was Steve Johnson single-handedly blocked John Riley's social media neutrality legislation in the Comms and Tech Committee. And, I absolutely disagree with him about that. But I don't think he was being dishonest about it. I think he has this, extreme free market position. I know from him, it's not because the social media companies were buying him off. It was because that was just his personal disposition. And then talking about the election stuff, I think Rep. Johnson just believes what he believes. Lana Tice would be another one who is well known for being really conservative on a lot of issues. She's been leading against critical race theory. She's been leading against the lockdowns, leading against the investigation to the nursing homes, all this other stuff. That doesn't mean, and this is where the actual rhinos will come in, is they would never be the ones to say, oh, Lana Tice is the bad one. But, I'm looking at Trump endorsing her primary opponent saying, sorry, Lana, you blew it on the biggest thing. I don't think Lana intentionally meant to attack the grassroots when she signed onto that Egg McBroom report. I think she probably didn't realize the gravity of what was in there. But then months after it came out, and she did get tagged for it, partly by us. Remember, we wrote that actual resolution calling for McBroom's resignation, and she got caught in that crossfire and never denounced it and never apologized and never corrected it. Sorry, Lana, you were great.
That's sort of the problem, Adam. There was no
huge thing.
They had to do, in my opinion, they could have left the stuff in about Trump. All they had to do was reject that one line about targeting individuals, if you will. I think if they would have redacted that, I think they would have been okay. But I call it contempt of cop, but it's contempt of politician. Yeah. They double down, and that's where the struggle is. I see it with too many times.
But my point being, at what line do you have to cross when people finally realize you're not a rhino? Is it the line of never ever saying a bad thing about any Republican, no matter how horrible they are? Or is it what I just did, where I said, hey, I think these guys were great. I know they weren't really acting maliciously, but what they did was wrong. You're sooner or later getting to the point where nobody cannot be a rhino if you ever have an opinion about anybody anymore. And it's at the point where where the word has no meaning. And at the end of the day, the lesson that the politicians are getting when they get attacked for the slightest heresy, or like I remember months ago, I did a blog post about this when they were attacking Ted Cruz for saying Trump should have said something better. Ted Cruz, one of the only real hardcore conservatives in the U.S. Senate. And the problem is the message that the rhinos get and the real conservatives is that don't even bother trying to work with the grassroots. Don't bother even trying to be a principled patriot, because you know what? Nothing you do for them will ever be enough. And sooner or later they realize, you know what? All the great things I did, Steve Johnson, all the great things I did voting no, they'll throw it away in a heartbeat if I do one wrong thing. And the overall lesson that they get is, why even bother being the Patriots champion? Because they'll throw me under the bus as soon as I do something they don't like, whether or not it's in my best judgment.
Or even if you do, even with Kara, if you do the right thing, they'll throw you under the bus.
Yeah, that too. Even if you do actually do the right thing.
Didn't that happen to Justin Amash? Because he didn't back Trump up, I mean, if you go look at
Well-
Justin Walker's policy record, I mean, it's spot on from a conservative standpoint. But when it came time, push come to shove on a big topic like Trump, that's
Yeah.
Steve Carell mentioned that about Steve Johnson
Well,
too.
and you have to have that line, right? Like what Justin Amash did, sorry, like attacking Trump and calling for his impeachment, to me, that alone wipes away all the good things you did. That's my opinion.
I don't
But just
disagree.
because someone else doesn't share my opinion doesn't automatically make them a rhino.
So Steve Carell said this about Steve Johnson. I thought it was pretty compelling, if you will. Steve's like, listen, I mean, Steve Carell was like, listen, Steve Johnson has been a conservative on nearly everything. He's like, he is a straight shooter. He really is. He's a conservative in all aspects. He's just wrong on this issue.
Yeah.
And when he said it that way, I was like, you know what? Yeah, he's just wrong on this issue. I don't really know Steve Johnson, and I can't make any claims or anything against him, but I just agree with Steve Carell saying he's wrong on this issue. I'm not going to beat the guy down. I just think he's wrong on this issue.
Yeah. And that, to me, that's fair, but for some people, nothing is ever enough. And if you don't agree with someone on their principles, their tactics, their policies, their whatever, they'll be the first one to point the finger at you.
Well, it's weird because Tammy's been doing this for 20-something years. She's like the darling of the MIGOP. She's a total sweetheart. She's always there for everybody. She's a conservative. She's a very good person. I'm known for being blunt, honest, direct. I've turned my party around. I stifled Shirky's run for governor. I've been doing this for the grassroots movement. I'm influencing Jackson, Lenawee, Branch County. It's all not good enough for some people. It isn't. So I'm not worried about those people, by the way. So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. I got to do it not only for my family, but I got to do it for my county party. I got to do it for the state, and I'm still going to continue to do it with whatever I got to get done. So we're going to push this audit forward. I'm proud to be on. I'm not on the board, but I'm proud to help with that board, and I'm proud to work with Tammy, and I'm proud to work with the other people on that board.
Awesome.
Right on.
And Tim, you got any final thoughts before we'll go through some comments after?
Yeah, I think we're about. Yeah, there's not too much more in the comment section or the chat. If you guys have any plugs you want to give, now is the time. Let people know where they can find you, where they can get connected, where they can get involved in the audit if they want.
People can go to audit that stands for Audit Michigan, of course, .org. And that site is being built out. It's going to have all the information you're going to need. That's where we'll put how you can help. In terms of a plug, I guess I would say the Michigan Election Integrity Network that I started right after I got elected by the delegates to serve as vice chair with state party has been going gangbusters. It's really exciting to see people all over the state fighting for election integrity. And I love seeing that, people are not giving up. And I'm on national calls related to election integrity every week, and 3 national calls, and people all over the country, especially in the battleground states, they're not giving up either. And it's very hopeful. And John, I have to thank you for your kind comments. That definitely helps after being under attack for a week. My heart has been very heavy, and I've been very sad about what I'm seeing. So appreciate your positive comments very much. And I just beg the grassroots, the true conservatives, to unite and stand together and fight for our country, because we have lost it. And if we're divided, we cannot win. Politics is a numbers game. There are not enough numbers. So it's really simple math.
Well, anybody that wants to get involved, we do need help with getting captains in the county. We do need help with, getting more attorneys involved. We do need help with fundraising. We do need help with all this stuff. 5 people are not going to be able to get this done. So they can reach us on our Facebook platforms individually. If they want to help now, they can reach out now. I don't want to hear this, what can I do? Tell me how you can help. Like, I get that a lot in my county party. I'll get someone coming up to me, hey, I want to help. I'm like, okay, can you knock doors? No, I can't knock doors. Can you make some phone calls? Nah, I can't make some phone calls either. Can you raise money? I don't know how to raise money. What can you build a website? Nah, I can't build a website. Well, what can you do? Like, it's not, I can't be the coach every day, all day long. Like, I'm not Bill Belichick. So, if people want to help and literally help, They know how to reach us on Facebook. They come to Tammy's page. They come to my page, John Roca's page, Angela Rega's page, whoever. There's 10 million people in this state. There's no reason why we can't get this done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks guys for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone in the chat. For those of you who have another side of this story, you guys are welcome to come on our show sometime. And Logic, I'm happy to come on yours. I did see you sent an invite, so let's make it happen, buddy. Happy to talk about this or
and
anything else that's been going on in Michigan. Huh? I
have no ill feelings towards Logic or Melissa or any of or Jovan for that matter, the Wizard. So.
Oh, and Sherry just says, oh, and Gina Johnson for rep. Hey, Sherry, I'm with you 100%. I was happy to help out on Gina's campaign. I'll happy to help her again in the next one. So give Gina my regards. All right. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for being with us tonight. And thanks again for all you do for liberty. Until next time, peace.
God bless.